they can't give us a 100%, if he'll ever recover from anything, any mobility. Pretty much they said, hey, I'll give you a 15% chance that he'll get some mobility in his hind legs, but 100% chance almost that he'll never recover any mobility in his front end. Tuesday morning, SWAT team, they were there, and we all drove up to Shands and, said our goodbyes.
If any of y'all were out and about that day and saw the spectacle, what was happening, you would say, like, that was truly amazing. These are more than animals. They're more than animals to us. They're not just dogs. And when I say us, everybody out here in front of me, they are truly our protectors. And on February 17th, that's what Leo did. On February 17th, Leo and I were exactly where Leo and I were supposed to be. I don't look back and say I wish I was on vacation. I don't look back and say I wish somebody else was there in our place. That's where we were supposed to be. We trained for thousands of hours for that moment, to face the person that others wouldn't want to face. I'd like to thank Corporal Sergeant Rath for being there by our side. And because of Leo, 3 men went home that day. I truly believe that. The violence that was intended for us, Leo stood in that place, took that violence, and he continued to fight through it all.
Welcome to Police Canine Radio. I'm Greg Tawney. With me, Rich Hartman. Rich, what's going on?
Well, the good thing for our listeners, they didn't have to witness the last 30 minutes of our ineptitude with technology. We had some earphones that were locked in the closet. We couldn't figure out how to send an email properly.
You don't talk about the behind the scenes.
Oh,
this
sorry.
is a smooth operation.
Everything went extremely well, and we're just, rolling through it. Today's kind of a serious topic. We're going to talk to our next guest about the time he had a canine deployment and it ended in the death of his dog, which is never something that's easy to talk about. And we really appreciate him coming on. Our guest is Justin Tortora. Did I say that right? Is that last name right?
Yes, sir. Yep.
And we're going to let Justin introduce himself in a minute, but it's we'll talk a little bit about kind of what a small world it is. So I went back to Florida, met with Jay Nix out there. We've had Jay Nix on the podcast before, and most people know, but Jay Nix is currently the canine sergeant for Marion County in Florida, and Justin got tagged as the next guy to come in and take Jay's place, which I can't imagine is an easy task for anybody. Jay wears a pretty big pair of shoes, and to jump into those and take over where Jay left off is not going to be easy. But I talk to Jay probably about once a week at least, and he fully believes that you're the man for the job. He has pretty dang high expectations of you.
No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure at all. And we'll talk about it here in a little bit. I think Jay lives pretty close to the sheriff's department, and Justin is going to have some access to him even after he's retired. So, Justin, do me a favor, introduce yourself. Let us know where you're working at now, what your job is, how you got there, where life with dogs started, even if it was your first Cocker Spaniel when you were 4 years old. Give us the path and tell us about yourself a little bit before we get into the serious stuff.
All right. Yep. So Justin Tortora. I grew up here in Marion County, but I grew up with horses. So on a thoroughbred farm, my dad, my mom, they trained race horses. In 10th grade, we moved down to a suburb of Orlando. It's Oviedo, so neighboring county over, but finished out school there. Kind of undecided on what I would do after high school. Eventually, I went out to Wyoming, University of Wyoming for a year, got a little homesick, so I came back home. Picked up where I left off, working with horses for a couple of years, met some guys that worked at the sheriff's office and, a few SWAT guys, some canine guys, and really had not a lot of direction on, where I would go in the horse business. And their job sounded pretty cool. I think 2010, I went to the academy, left the academy, waited about a year to get hired on at the sheriff's office. So 2012, I started working at the sheriff's office. Got on the SWAT team 2013. Did that patrol for about 8 years, and then 2020 tried out for canine. And that was the time, actually, Sergeant Nix had just got promoted to sergeant, and he was coming off the team at that point. So in that canine school in particular, we had 4 new teams going through it together.
What made you want to do the dog thing in the beginning?
Yeah, so honestly, in the very beginning, it was all about get my foot in the door, get on the SWAT team. Did that pretty quick. To be honest with you, our agency had gone through some turmoil. I think it started around 2014, lasted till about 2016. Some use of force stuff. I was pretty kind of shied away from the dog stuff. Just it seemed to come up a lot in topic or scrutiny, we'll say.
Sure.
So when that died down, out there working patrol, I'm around those guys a lot, and it started growing my interest. They go to all the good calls, let's just say that they had the entire county. If anything popped off, they were going to it, whether a dog was the answer or not, that they were going to it. So versus just being quarantined kind of in your own zone. So that's when I probably about 2017, 2018 is when I really started getting interested in working a dog, talking to those guys, getting around them, coming to training days. And then 2020 is when they had that trial that I went to and got selected ultimately.
Before the dog stuff, how many alligators have you had to wrestle on duty?
No alligators.
No alligators. That's disappointing.
I stay away from those calls.
Okay. Do you guys get those calls? Like, hey, there's an alligator in my pool, and then you got to go out there and friggin'.
For us, it's pretty rare.
Okay.
We get a lot of bear calls, believe it or not.
Bear.
We got the Ocala National Forest, so
Got the black bear or the brown bear?
black bear.
All right, that's good.
I don't know. I was with Jay this week, and he showed me a picture of some big gator that they wrestled off of a golf course, and they had. I was impressed with what the cops were doing.
Gator.
Well, they called in some Steve Irwin looking guy, and he came out there and he had his.
He's like, everybody back up.
Yeah,
he just freaking jumps on it.
Yeah, and I'm like, look at that guy go. He is not. I don't know what he was getting paid, but I feel like it wasn't enough. Yeah.
No. How about the what else you guys got out there? You got the boa constrictors and stuff.
They got the snakes now.
You got a snake issue out there.
South Florida. So we're a little north of those, but South Florida, they're taking over the Everglades.
Once again, this episode is brought to you by Inukshuk Professional Dog Food. There's only one brand of dog food that we use and recommend. That is Inukshuk Professional Dog Food. Inukshuk was created for working dogs and continues to be the top choice for all working dogs, from hunting dogs to sled dogs, and of course, police canines. Whether it be detection or patrol canines, visit inukshukpro.com, or you can find all of the formulas on chewy.com.
Small dogs and stuff. They'll eat everything.
Yeah.
God dang.
So what's the line in Florida where you no longer sound like you're from the South? Because you definitely sound like you could be from Georgia or Alabama or something like that. And then, if I listen to Pitbull talking from in Miami, he doesn't sound like that. So is there a delineation line there where you no longer consider yourself a Southerner and you're just a Floridian?
Yeah, I'd say Orlando and South.
Disney, everything below Disney.
Yes, sir.
There we go. The horses, and then this one is near and dear to me. I did horses before I did dogs professionally, I guess. How much when you started working with the dogs, how much of your horse skill and aptitude did you share in your dog training? Like, how much of that paid off?
Yeah, for me, a lot of it translates for me personally, like when it comes to bite work and, the pressures, applying pressure, release of pressure, there's an answer for that. And for me, it's a feel thing as well. I mean, obviously there's apparent cues, but for a horse, a lot of times they're giving to it. You're applying some sort of pressure that you're wanting them to give to, move away from. But with the dog stuff, especially bite work, you're creating a problem for them, and you're looking for a particular solution. Usually, it's always bite harder.
There you go. I think
pressure goes away.
And for me, in the horse world and the dog world, I think you're right. It's on the pressure thing, and whether it be pets or canine handlers, that's one of the things I try and explain, because, sometimes we get too wrapped up in the reward, we get too wrapped up in the punishment, but really we're trying to teach dogs to turn off pressure happily and confidently, whether it's pressure from the decoy, pressure from the suspect, pressure from the leash, whether it be, hey, I'm going to lift up on my leash because I want you to sit down. The dog feels that pressure, like, hey, I know what to do. I put my butt on the ground, and then the pressure goes away. And Greg and I talk about this all the time. Sometimes we rely on a lot of science when we're training dogs, but sometimes there's a fair amount of finesse, and you just kind of hit on that a little bit. You have to have really good timing and feel. So if I'm really good with a horse and I have those reins and I put a little pressure on the neck and the horse moves away from that and I immediately take that pressure off, pretty soon I can work my horse with a hay string, right? Like I can put a shoestring around his neck and get him to do what I want because he understands that pressure. Same thing is my goal with a dog, right? If I'm really light with my pressure and I'm really quick to turn that pressure off, I feel like the dogs are far more responsive to that. And we just went back to Indiana and worked with Canines United there. And that's what we all tried to impart to the guys out there is this is a game about teaching your dog how to want to turn off pressure, how to know to turn off pressure, and know exactly when that happens so that you also turn off your pressure, right? So if I ask the dog to do something and it requires a little bit of pressure, he does it and I immediately turn it off. The dog's like, ooh, all right, that feels good. I'm in charge. I have the power to make that pressure go away. And then we can use that in the decoy, like you're talking about with bite work. Dog drives in, I immediately give him an ouch, and I kind of back off. The dog's like, oh shit, I've got some power that I didn't realize I had.
Yeah, the funny thing too is on new decoys, it's the hardest thing is taking the pressure off, because all the new decoys are like, they lock up, they don't move, and then they're just staring at the dog face to face. It's like, hey, get some pressure off of there, and that's what we find. It's like, hey, be the rabbit sometimes, take some pressure off. Putting the pressure on sometimes is the easy part, and it's so dangerous, right? Like the little nuances, especially in decoying.
So working with animals, prior to working with animals, I assume that's helped you out along the way, right? I mean, it just makes life a little bit easier, have a better understanding of all that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Are you done in the horse world?
Yes.
How about betting on them?
What?
Going to the track?
No.
All right, good.
I just watched the Belmont Stakes this weekend. Man, it was like 3 hours of buildup for a 3-minute race, and it's like, it's like, oh, this is so exciting, and then it's over. And
by the time it starts, everybody's drunk. And
the crazy thing is, we won't get too lost in horses, but at the Kentucky Derby, every horse in that race came from Secretariat, like had some lineage that came down from Secretariat, which is I think it's amazing that you have a whole field of horses, and at some point,
that is,
granddad was Secretariat. That dog's or that horse's semen has made a lot of money.
I'm not. We'll leave it. We'll leave it at that.
You can't say that, can
you?
No. So you're getting ready to move into the sergeant role, canine supervisor, and we were talking about it before we came on the air. How many patrol dogs? How many detention dogs? And how many? You have a detection dogs also, right? How many of each of those do you have?
Yeah, so for patrol, we're going to have 9 to include myself. In our detention, we're going to have 4. 2 are in school right now. 2 are already working. And then we have 2 in our schools, 2 gun dogs in our schools.
And can you talk about the gun dogs a little bit at the schools? So, I mean, obviously their job is to detect guns. How does that look? Like, how are they deployed? What are the handlers doing? Is it just random walk around the school and have the dogs sniff for guns? Or are you checking lockers, backpacks? Like, what's the path that those dogs are doing?
Yeah. So our, obviously we work hand in hand with the school board. They kind of dictate the usage. So right now, every week there's 2 schools picked randomly, and they will do a search at those schools. And then if there's any kind of law enforcement investigation or anything that needs to be done, they can go to any school at any time to do those. They're rovers. Our school dogs are rovers. So sometimes they'll actually be assigned to a school to fill in for an SRO that's off or something. And then they have 3/4 kennels, so split cages. They'll actually do transports as well when they're not either training or doing a search.
Those school dogs also help out on patrol. If you guys have somebody dump a gun or something, are they capable to come out and work on that as well?
Yep. And we're using them more and more for that. Recently, they had one, our intel unit had chased a guy that had done a recent shooting. I think they did actually see him with a gun. He actually crossed our big interstate that runs through the county. I-75 went from one side to the other across all 6 lanes of travel. And at some point when they caught him on the other side, he no longer had that gun. So they ended up going out and finding it. I think it was the next day, but called our school dogs to go out there and help with that.
Are you guys having I mean, obviously at some point somebody must have thought the problem was bad enough in the schools that they needed to get a dog to look for guns. Is that something that you guys are having a big problem or had a big problem with out there?
Yeah, so we actually had, I don't quote me on it. I think it was 2019. We had a kid bring I think he was a 19-year-old. He was actually out of school, but he showed up at the school early morning with some sort of duffel bag, shotgun in it. He ended up discharging around into a door. I don't know. He had some sort of catastrophic malfunction where that ended his crime spree. But had that not happened, I mean, who knows what he would have done. But yeah, that's kind of what prompted it. Also the Marjorie Stoneman shooting down in I think that was Broward County. I think that happened just before that. So with those couple of incidents, that one hitting close to home, school board, sheriff's office saw a problem that needed to be addressed and acted pretty quickly and ended up getting those 2 dogs for the school.
Nice. It's probably also nice to have them as a backup to help look for guns. Are any of your patrol dog gun dogs? Or are they all dual purpose, or what are the patrol dogs? Are they?
No, sir. No gun dogs. They are all dual purpose. We'll have 7 narcotic and then 2 explosive detection.
Nice. Cool. Nice. And your dog, your new dog, what are you running?
Narcotic.
Solely narcotic? Or,
yes, sir. Well, dual purpose narcotic apprehension.
And you said this time you picked a bit of a smaller dog. You weren't going for the giant absolutely. This time.
In the last one, he wasn't. He was probably 65 pounds, so small dog, but very strong, very independent. Drugged me around everywhere. One of those things that just kind of allowed him to do it. But
you're not the only one.
Yeah, I had a sore arm all canine school. So
how long is your guys' basic out there?
What's that?
How long is your basic academy for your canine?
480 hours. But sheriff's office, they really don't put a time constraint on us saying, hey, at 480, I want y'all certifying. I mean, they let us go until we're ready. We'll say that.
That's nice.
They're not looking over our shoulders saying, hey, when are you done? When are you done?
Hey, we'd like to welcome our new sponsor and old friend, Blackjack's Leather. Blackjack's is the true definition of a mom and pop shop. They're out in Illinois. Richard, the owner, is somebody that we work extensively with. They make leather leashes, leather collars, biothane. We get a ton of biothane from them. Biothane 3-foot, 6-foot, 20-foot, 30-foot leashes. All kinds of colors. I know everybody that's listening to the podcast is into the tactical with the greens and the coyotes and the blacks. But if you have a pet dog at home and you want your dog to be a little flashy, we love their long line biothane leashes. There's blues, there's pinks, there's oranges, yellows, all kinds of colors. Add a little flash to your program. And they really care about canine handlers. They're big on making sure that the equipment that they sell is safe for the dog and safe for the handler, and exactly what you're asking for. Blackjack's Leather, thanks for joining us. We appreciate you. And you were telling me earlier, Jay's on his way out, you're on your way in. And can you talk a little bit about how your agency is dealing with that? Because we've seen that frustration before where there's a canine sergeant, have a good relationship with the canine sergeant. He decides to retire, promote, go to some other, specialty. He leaves, and then you got to bring somebody in who doesn't know anything about the unit and try and wind them up without the knowledge of the outgoing sergeant. You guys are doing it a little differently, right?
Absolutely, and it's full credit goes to the agency and Sergeant Nix for allowing it to happen. But so I left the unit. It would have been last year, so February 2024. I went back to patrol. Ended up getting promoted around June of last year. Worked patrol sergeant shift. Sergeant Nix came to me probably last October, talking about his plans. Hey, I want to bring you back in. Telling me kind of when he's gonna retire, when he wanted to bring me back in, and He wanted me to work another dog. And even at that time, let's say last October, I was like, man, I don't know if I want to work another dog. It sounds like a great idea, but um, he didn't say anything for a few months. Let's say from October to January, didn't say anything. January, he calls me up. I'd thought about it. I'd talked to my wife about it. She was fully on board and supportive of the idea. And he said, hey, that idea I proposed to you, getting you a new dog, bringing you back in the unit, having you work with me, showing you the ropes, helping you train this dog, showing you all the administrative duties that come with it, and then retiring sometime maybe August, September this year. So he brought me in, proposed that. I said, yeah, I'm on board. I really like it. He said, hey, I'm going to go talk to the major. So he talked to the major, and that was January. By early February, I was back there working with him. So major talked to the sheriff. Sheriff fully supported the idea. Sergeant Nix is the canine commander. He's the sergeant in charge. But since February, I've been working with him. We started the canine school. I've got a green dog. We have, let's see, I believe it's 5 single-purpose detection dogs in the school, and then 3 dual-purpose dogs in there. So I'm getting to learn all aspects. Different breeds of dogs. We have GSPs, labs, shepherds, mals, different stages of training. One's transferring to a new handler. So not only learning how to train a dog or how to teach people to train a dog, training one myself, but also the administrative duties that come with it.
Sounds easy.
Yeah, it is because he's here still.
I won't throw you under the bus, but Jay was talking to me, and he apparently him and Justin went into the major's office a couple of weeks ago, and there was a little bit of disagreement with Jay and the major, and Jay was raising his voice and the major was raising his voice and got pretty contentious, and then they worked it all out, and the major said, Justin, that's how I need you to like work with me, and I don't want you to hold back.
Oh, good for him.
And but Justin's like, no, I'm not yelling at the man.
Not
sorry,
for a while.
Sorry, sir.
We'll build up to
it's
that.
not going to go down that way. Yeah. Which is smart. I think that's wise.
Yeah,
but
that's
a good sign of leadership that you have
Yeah.
a guy that definitely
Have
is
those
opening,
conversations behind closed doors. Speak freely.
open those doors and
Good for
ready to
him.
work
Good
that out.
leadership.
We're going to move into why we wanted to have this conversation in the first place. So when I went out to Florida and went to that Canines United dinner, you got up on the stage and you shared a story with everybody there about the incident where you ended up losing your dog, where you ended up dying in the line of duty. And I think there's a lot that we can all learn from that. And I think that just kind of preparing for that, knowing certain things, whether it's where the vet is or, how to get your dog, immediate care, whatever it is. And then the fact that sometimes dog calls turn into other things, right? And I'm going to let you kind of walk us through what happened from the beginning of that call until, not even that night, but later on when it all ended up, changing for you. So if you can give us kind of a start to finish story of how that went, so that all of our listeners can, kind of relive this through you and hopefully learn from this what they can do should they end up in the same situation.
Yeah, absolutely. So February 17th, 2024, it was a Saturday. I'm working a day shift schedule. Comm center called me just over the on the cell phone. I didn't hear this call going on, but they asked me to go out, back up a deputy out in the forest. He had charges on an individual, and basically we were going to go out, try to make contact with him. So drive out to the forest. It's on the east side of our county. Probably 20, 25 minutes from our sheriff's office. Pretty much sits in the center of the county. So about 20, 25 minutes east of that. We meet at our district office. I've got little information. I pulled up the call. Really not a whole lot of information on this person. I looked him up. We had never had any contacts with him. Talked to the deputy. Sounded like there was a domestic incident that started the night before. I think patrol had tried to make contact with a female victim and maybe failed to do so. Anyway, this deputy spoke to her. She's at her sister's house, a third-party house, not at the incident location. So she's safe, but he's got charges for this guy for domestic battery by strangulation. Deputy let me know he's got a pretty violent history. Apparently, he had done 12 years in prison in North Carolina for similar charges, domestic related charges. The female, it didn't sound like they resided together, that she owned the home, but she was, again, at a third party house with her sister. But she said he had disabled, she thinks he's there because her security cameras were disabled. And she did let deputies know that he's known or should be in possession of a handgun. But he had been sending her threatening text messages, pretty much threatening law enforcement, that he was going to kill her, he was going to kill himself. So there was indications that there was going to be some violence or possibly violence if we try to make contact with them. But she was giving us consent. Hey, go over there, see if you can find him. Consent to go in the home. I think she provided a key as well. So we, at this point, it's myself, the deputy, primary on the call, and then the patrol sergeant. We go ahead, we drive over to the house, we park short, walk up on foot. It's a corner lot, privacy fence in the yard. But there's a car parked right outside the privacy fence, North Carolina tags, driver door wide open. See that? The chain link fenced gate right in front of it's open. You go through there. It leads. It's their primary entry point to the mobile home, but it's probably, we'll call it the back side of it. It's got a little porch built onto the back door, leads to the slider, and then it's a little narrow walkway. So on the opposite side of the porch, there's a shed, and that door's open. So there's a lot of threats. There's a little alley you're funneled through, and there's threats on either side. I'm leading the way. I've got my backup officer with me. Originally, we're going to go he's going to go up to the porch. He's going to knock on the slider. I'm going to just go around the back side of the house, the backyard.
So is it just you and him on scene at this point?
And the patrol sergeant, though. So the patrol sergeant split off from there, from us, and he's going to cover the opposite side of the house.
Okay.
But as soon as that was the game plan, but pretty early on, before he ever gets onto the porch, I hear something slam in the backyard. And when I say the backyard, it's just looks like a junkyard back there. For me, it sounded like, oh, we're busted. Like somebody's running from us right now. I don't see anything, but it just something loud, something metallic was crashing. So I took a couple quick steps going that way, and then I hear it again. The same noise, I hear it again. So I look back at the cover officer, and I just motioned, hey, walk with me. So as around the corner to the trailer, advancing the backyard, I see somebody, it's a male, he's leaning into a car. So I'm assuming that what I heard was a car door slamming, a hood slamming on it. It's what it sounded like. But he's leaning into it, has no idea we're there. And I keep progressing into that backyard. He stands up out of the car, walks parallel to me, make eye contact with him. At this point, we had pulled up a picture of him through, I think it was North Carolina's DOC. I recognized him immediately. That's, who we're here for. Started giving him canine warnings, pretty much sheriff's office canine, you're under arrest. And as soon as I said you're under arrest, he reached down to his waistline, pulled a handgun, and just started shooting at us. I'd say, we're 15, 20 yards apart. Started exchanging some rounds. During that exchange, he turned and started running back towards that car. And there's a lot of junk in that area. So he started running to the car. I kept moving right. I had Leo on a 6-foot lead. And at that point, somewhere I went ahead, I dropped the lead. I put 2 hands on the gun, I dropped the lead. Leo, he went to the right side of what I'm calling a row of junk, and it's a little alleyway between that and the privacy fence. And it would have intercepted the direction the guy was running. So saw him running down that alleyway. He checked up, looking left, and just disappeared. He made a left turn, disappeared. I heard not rapid fire, slow fire, just pow, pow, pow. 6 rounds. I kept progressing or advancing the direction that Leo had traveled. When I made that left turn that he made, I saw the suspect. He was on his butt, sitting up, and then Leo was on his left side. And I immediately saw he had two holes. He had one in his shoulder, one in the top of his neck, and the suspect was pulling a gun up from his left side. He had it in his right hand, but his left side to about the center line of his chest. So he's bringing the gun up. Went ahead and dealt with that. And about that time, I held cover on him. Leo was breathing. I mean, his mouth was opening like he was trying to bite at the guy, but he wasn't moving as far as his legs or anything. So, I said some things to him. I tried to recall him just to do something.
Pretty.
Nothing.
I just want to clarify at this point, suspect is deceased, as far as you can tell.
As far as I can tell, he's definitely right at this point not a threat. I think a little bit later when we advanced on him, somebody said he was still breathing, but he was definitely not in fighting shape at this point.
So you could focus on the dog.
Correct. Yeah. So we cover officer. I think it was the sergeant, next one that moved up with me. Covered the suspect. I drug Leo to the side. He had his ballistic vest on. Drug him to the side a little bit and just started undressing him. I took his vest off, took his collars off, and I just kind of I'd say I was in a bit of an OODA loop at this point. I was just kind of petting him. We'll say again, he's breathing. I'm not seeing a lot of blood loss. Sergeant did a great job. He's like, hey, you got any first aid kits? You can do anything with him? Immediately said, yeah. I ran to my car, pulled my car up, brought my kid out, returned to Leo. By that point, I'd started processing things. Again, he was breathing. There wasn't a significant amount of blood loss when I left him. Nothing had really changed when I returned. So I got on the radio. I told our dispatch to let UF know that we're going to bring a dog in.
Is that I'm going to stop you there and ask a few questions. Mm-hmm. Is that your go-to emergency vet in this situation, or is that the one that was available at the time? Do you guys have it set up where certain time of day, certain situation, what vet you're going to? How did that work out for you pre-planning wise?
Yeah, great question. So fortunately, this was a weekend. So, and I say that, so after hours and weekends, so Monday through Friday, let's say 5 p.m. to 8 a.m. And weekends, we go to a vet hospital here in Ocala, and it's an after hours UF emergency vet clinic. So business hours, we have to take them to UF Gainesville. So that's 30 minutes north of Ocala versus the one that I'd mentioned. It's just south of our sheriff's office in Ocala. So it was a Saturday after hours. That's where we're going to the after hours vet clinic. So, and that's in our policy, and it's fortunate that it is like that we've addressed that. We've gone over it with our guys, and dispatch is aware of it as well. So just making a quick call over to them, which the dispatch does for us. I mean, it saves us time, saves us hassle, but it was pre-planned. Yeah.
And then scooping Leo up at this point.
Yep. And, and at this point, and I even thought about this during the time, or at the time, but a bill had passed where our canines could be transported by ambulance. Mm-hmm. My only concern at this point was I had heard somebody mention that this guy is still breathing. So where we are, I know they're going to just send us one rescue. I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't think that, want to put anybody in a situation where, hey, am I going to treat this canine over this person? So I loaded in my car and I passed the rescue as we were leaving. So immediately called Sergeant Nix. Pretty relieved. He already knew what was going on. And we're probably talking 5 minutes post shooting. So, he gave me some calming words, said he was going to call my wife for me, and told me where to go. Got on the radio, and Our watch commanders did a great job that day communicating with our local city because we got to pass through the city to get there. And I think I made it. It's probably a 30-minute ride to the hospital. I think I made it 15, 18 minutes.
A little quicker than normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So get him to the hospital. Sergeant Nix is there. Again, this is Saturday. And I'll say I think it was his first grandchild was born the night before. So feel bad. He probably had to leave his family and everything to come up there with me. But just again, hats off to him. Just immediate response to it. Again, he was in the parking lot when I got there. He ended up when I arrived, he scooped Leo out. The vet staff had a stretcher there. They loaded him onto it. We walked him in the office. From that point, just they're doing their thing. Sergeant Nick's trying to comfort me. My wife showed up. Everybody in my chain of command, all the way up to the sheriff, they ended up arriving there. And probably in about an hour or so, I'd say they had him stabilized. They had done an x-ray. They confirmed he was only shot one time. It was one bullet channel. So went in the neck, base of the skull, I'd say maybe a little further down, and then traveled out his shoulder. He had obviously that projectile left out of there. I don't think he had any significant shrapnel in him. They intubated him, stabilized him, and then it was the talk of, hey, we've got to transfer him up to Gainesville now. So that, again, that hospital that's 30 minutes north of us. So sheriff's there. He said, hey, we'll land the helicopter right here, load him up and go. So that was an option that he provided to us. But ultimately, we went ahead and called for a rescue and loaded him in that and transported him up. And again, the vet staff, they were incredible. They rode with us. They provided all their equipment. And they rode with us up to Gainesville. Got him there. I'm trying to think of, I believe, so he's heavily sedated at this point. So I believe they did, maybe it was an MRI while they were there, but it's a Saturday, so they're limited on what testing they can do. But at the end of that, they pretty much said, hey, he's fine. His spine is intact. Nothing broken, we'll say. So spine's intact. Nothing, no vital organs were damaged, from the bullet. All he needs to do is just kind of come out of sedation. They're going to wean him off some of the drugs, and he should be good. So I stayed with him probably maybe 6, 7 that night. Went home, saw my wife, saw my daughter, and there was a conversation. What are y'all going to do now? Are you going to retire him? I was telling her no. He's got few good years left. They told me he's fine.
Hey, I'd like to thank one of our sponsors, Ray Allen Manufacturing. They've been engineering tactical and working dog equipment like harnesses, collars, leashes for military police for over 75 years. They are continuously innovating. I always like to say, this is not your dad's Ray Allen. They are always looking for the bigger and the better. We get all of our handlers now in the basic handler course deal directly with Ray Allen. We get our harnesses, leashes, tugs, e-collars, gloves, Rec Specs, Hearing Dog Pro. All of our good stuff comes from Ray Allen Manufacturing. Look them up, rayallen.com. I cannot recommend them enough. We only recommend people that we deal with, and these are good people, and they're in it for the right reasons. So because of that, rayallen.com.
Spent a few hours there and went back to the hospital with him, and I spent the night there. And I think about 8, 9 the next day, neurology came in, and they started doing some pain testing. So just seeing what kind of reflexes he had, and they were taking some little clamps and clamping his pads, on his front paws, back paws, and he wasn't giving a lot of reaction. By this point, he was on pretty much nothing. So they didn't tell me right away, but neurology, they brought me aside and they're like, hey, you just need to go home. I mean, I could tell that they weren't really happy with the results that they saw, but they're like, yeah, you can do nothing here. You just need to go home. So that Sunday, ended up, I went home about noon, 1 o'clock, and Sergeant Nix and I went back up on Monday. So we get there Monday morning. They did a CT, and that's when they were able to confirm, what his problem was. So when they did that, they could see, like a millimeter of damaged spinal cord. It was white right there at the base of his neck where the bullet struck his spine. And with that, they said, I can't tell you, they can't give us a 100%, if he'll ever recover from anything, any mobility. Pretty much they said, hey, I'll give you a 15% chance that he'll get some mobility in his hind legs, but 100% chance almost that he'll never recover any mobility in his front end. And with that, that's a time thing. That in his current state, every 6 hours, he's going to need to be rotated. Basically, his quality of life right now, what if you do decide to give him time, is very poor. And we had some long conversations with them, what their opinions of it were, and by the end of that, we had decided that we're gonna do what's right. I thought, by Leo, and that was gonna be to put him down. So again, at this point, none of his vitals were injured from the bullet. I mean, he wasn't on any type of life support. I brought him home with me that night. Vet staff, they accompanied me home, and the next day we drove him back up to Gainesville. So that was special. Just letting them do that for us. The whole canine unit, they showed up at my house. That was Tuesday morning. SWAT team, they were there, and we all drove up to Shands and said our goodbyes.
That's rough, man.
Yeah.
One, I appreciate you sharing that story, and I know that's not easy, and I'm sure it doesn't get any easier each time you share it. Back at the house, had you not had Leo with you, what do you think that situation would have ended? I mean, I'm just picturing this guy back here, and he's established a position where he probably feels like he has a tactical upper hand, and then he's met with a dog, which obviously caused him some concern to the point where he had to unload on your dog, which allowed you to kind of at least hear where he was. And then, as you're saying, you're approaching him, and most of his focus is on the dog at that point. I'm thinking without the dog, at the very least, you guys would have been in a gunfight where you didn't have the upper hand. How do you feel about that? Do you think that Leo did a lot to send some deputies home alive that night?
Yeah, I couldn't agree anymore. None of us were shot in the original, the initial first gunfight. I couldn't tell you. I mean, at 15 to 20 yards, that's not a very hard target to hit. So how nobody got hit then, I don't know. But for sure, when he turned and retreated, he was going back to a position of cover. I wish I would have seen what transpired right there. Just hearing it, I know that Leo took direct gunfire, 6 rounds at minimum. I don't know the condition of the guy's weapon, whether he was out of ammunition or not. He still had the gun in his hand, looking like he was still trying to fight when I saw him next. But it was 6 rounds that weren't. If Leo wasn't there, they would have been directed right back at us, and from a more advantageous position during that second contact. So just whatever he had done when he came around that corner, whether he pushed him back out into the open, regardless, he took all that guy's attention. And the flip side, with how it ended, I'm kind of torn. It's like, I wish I had left Leo in the car and we'd have just went and had a gunfight. If I'd have known it was going to be a gunfight, I'd have probably done that. But for me, up to this point, 100% of people up to this point fought or I'm sorry, fled or surrendered. Nobody sat there and fought with us like this. So that was my mindset. He was either going to flee or he was just going to give up.
When you started the gunfight with him, you had one hand on the leash. Is that right? Like when
Yes, sir.
the first, was there a point where you consciously said, this is not my best platform. I need to let the dog go? Or was that all just like, I'm going to put two hands on my gun, and during that point you dropped the leash? Do you remember looking back at that, and if that was like, hey, this isn't helping me out in this gunfight to have this dog? Because I'm sure Leo wasn't just chilling in a long down, right, at that point.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That was the absolute thought, because I had exchanged rounds with him, and to me he had I believe a hoodie, long pants on, so baggier clothes. I didn't see any rounds striking him in that initial. Actually, it was happening so fast, but when he turned and ran from us, he didn't look injured to me. He wasn't falling down. He didn't fall and try to crawl away. He turned and ran. So that told me immediately whatever just happened didn't work. And for me, it was that I need to put two hands on this gun and get serious. So that was the mindset that I had when I dropped that lead.
Was Leo already in target lock? Did Leo know that there was a bad guy downrange? Did he, as far as you know, I mean, I know you were busy doing your thing, but as far as you know, was the dog like, hey, I got this guy, I know what our problem is now?
Yeah, and I feel he did, just the way when I dropped the lead, the guy had disappeared at that point, because I held him to a point where we were no longer in that gunfight. We were out of sight from each other, but the direction that he ran, he didn't go around back towards it. He actually was heading the guy off. If that guy would have continued on his path, he'd have been jumping a privacy fence. And it just seemed that Leo, he was heading that direction, kind of cutting that guy off. And like I said, it didn't take long. Like he had almost went to a skid stop and just darted left.
Sounds like he knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
Looking back, we're almost up on an hour. Looking back now, are there things that you took away from that now that when you're in a supervisor or leadership role, things that you're like, hey guys, like this is what I took from this. This is what I want you to take from this. And things that you might change, or things that you're like, no, this worked out perfect. Other than obviously losing Leo. And I know you're always going to have some regret, right? Like, I took my dog into a gunfight. You didn't know you were taking your dog into a gunfight. Yeah. And I think you did the absolute most appropriate thing you could do. You let your dog interrupt that guy's OODA loop, right? And then you were able to solve the problem ultimately and forever.
Yeah, sure. We even run this scenario where you're encountered, and guys out there that are listening to this podcast, where suspect jumps up and you're in an armed confrontation and holding on to a dog and trying to move laterally and trying to land rounds. Man, that is not in your best interest, right? So you letting the dog go so you can get a good shooting platform and you can move lateral, like that's what's going to, as handlers, that's what's going to take you home safe. You know what I mean? So I think you made exactly the right decision and the decision you had to make. And, this is another example of a dog coming in and, you didn't bring a dog to a gunfight. A gunfight happened while you have your dog. Yeah. And so there's a big difference in that. And so, kudos to you for the way you handled yourself and brought this to a resolution. But sorry to cut you off there, Rich. But yeah, like having gone over this, and I know you've talked about it before, like, anything you would do differently, anything for our listeners that like, hey, maybe think of this, maybe think of that, everything we do, no matter how it turns out, this, and not for Leo, but like, everybody being able to go home to their family. I mean, that's a big success, right? So what were the takeaways on your end from this that maybe you, training wise?
The way it happened, it happened so fast. So the biggest hiccup that I made, I felt like when I heard those noises, I immediately jumped to a conclusion. Hey, we're busted. This guy's running from us. I went to fast stepping to get to that backyard. Once I got my eyes on the suspect, like I said, he had no idea we were there. He was back to us, bent over in a car. First time I saw him, I was at the corner of the house. probably, we'll say 30 yards from him. That would have been a great time to use that house. It's a mobile home, so it's not great cover, but it's concealment. If anything would have popped off from there, we could have pulled back from there. We've got 30 yards of distance between us now versus 15 to 20. That would have been a great point. Hey, start addressing him. Get my backup officer here on my left shoulder. Would have been my outside shoulder to, hey, you're my lethal cover if something were to happen. Versus, I'd overextended. When I saw him with his back to us, I thought, great, I'm going to close more distance. At this point, when I start my warnings, we're 15, 20 yards apart, and we're in just open space. When I say it's a junkyard where we found ourselves, there's nothing between us. So I overcommitted to that and put myself in that situation to where I'm saying that, we're lucky none of us got hit with anything. So definitely giving yourself that distance, some sort of cover, some sort of concealment. The dog will close that ground if he goes to run or resist. But you're putting yourself in a better position to fight from if that's what's going to happen.
Hey, for all you handlers out there, it's really important that we stay in physical condition, but it's also equally, if not more important, that we are good upstairs mentally. And so knowing that you guys have a stressful job, something that we've started doing, all of our trainers doing, and Rich turned me on to this, is sauna box.
Yeah, love it.
And it's to say it's life-changing is not hyperbole. Like, it's one of those things that if you haven't done sauna, I highly recommend it. And I was looking at like, hey, how can I get a sauna? I started looking at pricing them out. Could go up to $10,000 for a nice one. And Rich, you're the one that turned me on to this thing. It's for about $500. You get a sauna it's steam, and it is not pleasant when you hit about the 20-minute mark if you can hang in there for that long. But when I come out of this thing, man, I feel so much better. I feel decompressed. I feel like I'm a nicer person. Yeah. And it's one of those things that now I do probably 4 to 5 days a week. All of our trainers have them. I'm getting the same feedback. Rich, you have one.
Have it. I really can't live without it at this point. And like you said, it's 20 minutes. It can be in the evening. It can be in the morning, whenever it works best for you. But 20 minutes on the sauna box, and you are gassed by the time you come out of there. But rinse off, get ready to go. Like, man, your body feels better. Your brain feels better. I just feel like I can take more on that day. My sleep is definitely better. Yeah. I love it, and I use it. Like, I'm with you. I use it 4 or 5 times a week. It's part of my program now, and it's the least invasive part of my program that makes me feel that much better.
Yeah, lots of studies on it. So go to saunabox.com, use keyword canine, K, the number 9, get yourself an extra 10% off. Tell them Rich and Greg sent you.
Have some fun and sweat it out.
All right.
But like you said, you had, we also get classically conditioned,
Sure.
right? And every other experience, you go, they run.
I'm going to close
chase.
distance just to make sure he doesn't make that fence. You know what I mean? That way my dog catches it before he gets over that thing.
Yeah. So I don't think you did anything. I mean, it worked out prior to that. I mean, and that's a great conversation to have now. Like, hey, don't overextend. But we're all going to overextend, right? Like, especially when you have a dog and you're like, hey, I want to put myself in the perfect situation to use this dog in this situation. I think the best thing for us as listeners, the best thing you did is at some point you unask the dog, right? And be like, hey, we're both on our own in this situation. Like, I got to make sure I'm the best version of me where I'm fighting a bad guy for my life. And you're going to have to do the same. And he did his job and you did your job. And I mean, pretty fluky that it ended up in, like, he didn't die there. Like, and the bad thing is you probably went home with some hope, right? Like, hey, this worked itself out pretty good.
Yeah.
And then, the next day it's like, oh, not quite what we expected, which
it was definitely a roller coaster the following days after that.
And we talked about it before. You had a med kit in your car. You had taken a med class from, I think it was Triad out there in Southern Florida. They had you prepped, you knew what to check for. You got the vest off. You were looking for blood. You were looking for entry holes, exit holes, all those things. You knew how to check. You got your dog. You already had the vet lined up. You knew where you were going. Like, I would say in a medical emergency where your dog got hit, everything went as it should have gone, except for the dog got hit, right? So you knew where to go. You had the gear ready. You got the ride ready. Your sheriff offered you a helicopter. I mean, everything was going as it should have, and then he got hit in a bad spot.
One quick question. So when the shots were going off and Leo was out of sight with the suspect, had you considered retreating, or was this a like, we're pushing forward at this point? We're going. We're gonna take care of business at this point.
Yeah, I never thought about that.
Okay. All right. that was not a thought.
No.
Yeah.
Justin seems like a move forward.
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
guy. Yeah, that doesn't seem like there's
And,
his car doesn't go in
I'll say
reverse.
It goes back.
And was everybody
to,
with you? Was your cover with you pushing up? Had you communicated?
No, and again, that kind of goes back to, had I had stopped at that corner, and maybe told them, hey, move up with me, come up with a little bit better game plan, because it kind of switched, because we're going to go knock on the door first.
Sure.
And now we heard this noise, kind of switched up. I over penetrated in the yard, but at a certain point, it was just us two back
Gotcha.
there.
Gotcha.
The cover officer had kind of made a loop around the house, and actually came up behind the sergeant. Sergeant just kept advancing on the backside, because we'd split off early. He kept advancing, ended up, I think he put a round downrange at some point when he saw the suspect. But the cover officer had moved around, took the far lap around the house, and so it was just us back there, and
That happens.
like I said,
Yeah, I mean, you guys didn't get a chance to discuss tactics before going.
Shit
into
jumped
that,
off
so-
fast.
Yeah.
It was quick.
Yeah, it's quick.
Before we end this, I want to talk a little bit about Canines United, because you have, and this isn't just because I'm doing some stuff with Canines United. The reason I'm doing stuff with Canines United is because of the stuff that they're doing for officers and deputies across the nation, but especially in Florida. And I know you now have a relationship with Jay, and you also have a relationship with Debbie. When we were out there and we talk about some of the things that Debbie's done, obviously she's gone to testify in front of Congress and all that kind of stuff. She recently has gotten it where you can get a license plate in Florida. That's a Canines United license plate with money going towards that. Equipment, training, all that stuff that's being offered through the donations that go to Canines United. And just having somebody like her in your court as a canine handler is a pretty cool thing to have, because she's all about it, right? Like she's borderline neurotic on her support for canine, and by borderline I mean not borderline. She's pretty neurotic about her support for canine, which is cool, because you got to have somebody like that, to the point where, like you said, you kind of mentioned it earlier, in Florida, if a canine had gotten shot or injured in the line of duty, there wasn't a way for them to go in an ambulance or a medical helicopter to get treatment. But she's changed that. She's getting hundreds of thousands of dollars of equipment out to guys and gals that need it across the nation. And when she talks about you, she has a certain feeling about you and Leo and that whole situation. I mean, I guess I've kind of covered it, but how do you feel about Canines United? Do you have a different relationship with them than you had prior to this whole situation?
Yeah, and definitely. So I was fortunate enough to let's say, I think it was 2021, 2022. Canines United actually did a seminar here in Ocala, and I was fortunate enough to go there with Leo, and I met a lot of those guys. And at this point, Sergeant Nix, he had gotten promoted. So when you get promoted, you'll move out of the whatever specialty you were in. You're going to go to patrol as a sergeant or something like that. So at this point, he was obviously still with Canines United, running that. But he was in patrol. Either way, he extended the invite, said, hey, I've got spots for y'all to attend. I was able to do that, networked with a lot of those guys, and met Mike Lilly, Nesbitt, Carlos, just a lot of those guys. So in 23, I think, Sergeant Nix, he ended up, we got a tracking seminar put on here at the sheriff's office. So Lily came down and ran that. Several times he's had Carlos in with us. Nesbitt, Nesbitt was just down here about a month or so ago, and I think he's coming back for another decoy seminar. So definitely I was fortunate in the 3 years that I was working with Leo to meet those guys. heck, even after Leo's incident, Brady came down and did a first aid TCCC class for us. So the amount of training that we've gotten and benefited from Canines United is it's amazing. And you know, also meeting you. So just that's the other part of it, networking. Before it was kind of like closed off, we'll say. You know, PDs, sheriff's offices. I mean, rarely do I see the local PD guys. Will work together. We'll go out and hit the streets together. But as far as training goes, it's tough to get together and do that, or even you know, round tabling ideas. But now, I mean, we're close, tightly knit with St. John's guys, Putnam guys, Jacksonville guys. It's just expanded our networking. So
Greg and I were talking about that.
With that organization, it's here in Florida. I mean, it's
a big deal.
We all benefit. So
and Greg and I were talking about that, how, you know, when we started, everything was very compartmentalized and it was on purpose, right? Like some trainer had some information and they didn't want to share that information with the next trainer.
Tribal.
Like you couldn't even go from city to county because it was all top secret stuff. And now, and now when we're in big seminars, one of the hardest things for guys to do is say, hey, I have a problem with my dog, because you might work for, you know, the county, right? And then there's a city cop over here and you're like, I don't really want to show my ass in front of the city cop and he's going to make fun of me. And then, but the reality is we all have the same problems. And the more we get rid of those barriers and those boundaries, and we're like, hey, I got a problem. My dog doesn't out. My dog won't stop barking. My dog doesn't track, you know, and they're like, oh, I'm having the same problem too. Now, every time we go to these things, like, hey guys, trust me, the guy 3 people down from you is having the same problem you're having. Yeah. Let's talk about it. And I think when you expose yourself, it makes you better.
And that's exactly what I learned that Ocala seminar that they did. I mean, I was pretty nervous. And I think Sergeant Nix had probably put a word in Nesbitt's ear. He's like, hey, get this guy off the wall, make him get his dog out and work him. So after that, you know, it was exactly what you said. I wasn't uncomfortable because before then I was very, we had some failed deployments. And when I say that, some stuff that, you know, Leo hadn't engaged on, and it was a lot of, it's stuff that I had done. Right.
Sure.
You know, I didn't know that what I was doing at the time or what I was creating, or failing to communicate with them, but they helped me through it. But I had to be willing to jump up there and let them work my dog.
Absolutely.
Hey, Justin, real quick. So, number one, thank you for coming on and sharing your story, because this is like a wake-up call to all our handlers out there, right? Because we get it, and Rich, you said it, like you get out, you're chasing somebody all the time. We start chasing the bite, right? And some of the things that you brought up that I want to make sure our listeners understand and maybe can take away from this podcast as well is, number one, you knew exactly where your med kit was. So handlers in your car, it should be readily available. I prefer if it's in a red bag or easily found, because all our shit's in black in the back of the car. And if you had to send somebody back to your car, like, hey, go get my med kit, and then they're just like pulling out muzzles and lines and leashes and bags of stuff that we never use, right, that we have in just in case, gas masks and shit. You know, have that stuff readily available. If your dog gets shot or stabbed, we all think it's going to be like, oh, there's blood there. That's not the case, you know. And if you guys haven't been to a medical class, sign up for one, because when this stuff happens, it's going to be too late to go back and figure this out, because sometimes finding those injuries are difficult. If your dog ever goes out of sight on a mission, run your hands down your dog, because they could have been stabbed at some point. You don't know it. Justin, you didn't have the opportunity to do this because you didn't have that many guys on scene. But if you're working in an environment that has more cover officers, you have more officers on scene, somebody else drives the car, you get in the back with your dog, apply pressure, have that set up with your shift in advance. You know, we don't always have that luxury, but if you do have that luxury, that's nice. You guys have already touched upon, you already knew where you were going, you already called ahead. You guys did a lot of right things out there. So, again, you know, man, thanks for coming on and sharing that story. I know it's not easy. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Justin, appreciate you coming on. Look forward to seeing you. I think we'll be out in Florida sometime early next year. But always good to talk to you. Appreciate you taking the time. Be safe out there, and good luck filling those big shoes of old Sergeant Nix. There's some high expectations for you.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. I'm sure you'll be hearing how it goes.
I'm sure I will. All right, man. Take care and be safe.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.